welcome to the news on GStube TV with your favorite, the Olamide. And here I'll be giving you news on education, entertainment, politics as it's going on in the country and around the globe. Stay tuned. The headline: Coronavirus. Nigerian governors urge Buhari to relax lockdown. News in full. Nigerian governors have advised President Muhammadu Buhari to relax the lockdown that has been in place in parts of the country in the last month in an effort to curb the spread of coronavirus. They advised the President Muhammadu Buhari, to impose interstate restriction but allow intrastate movement. They also recommended continued restriction on large gatherings and compulsory use of face masks in public places. The call is coming as the nation expects further action from Mr. Buhari as the 4-week lockdown imposed on Abuja, Lagos, and Ogun State by the president draws to a close on Monday. Several governors also declared lockdown in their respective states. Their recommendations are contained in an April 24 memo to the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Boss Mustapha. The letter, seen by Premium Times, was signed by the Ekiti State Governor and Chairman of the Governors Forum, in the person of Kayode Fayemi. Mr. Fayemi said the memo followed a teleconference meeting with the Vice President Yemi Osinbajo on April 22, where governors were asked to suggest what they want reflected in the expected presidential pronouncement, to have a coordinated response across the country. He said, and I quote, "Recall at the meeting, it was agreed that the Nigerian Governors Forum, the NGS, articulates the issue that it would want to be included in the next presidential pronouncement on COVID-19, so as to have a uniform and coordinated policy on COVID-19 at both the national and subnational level," he wrote. The governors called for nationwide interstate lockdown that exclude movements of essential supplies, food, beverages, medical and pharmaceutical, petroleum supplies, and agricultural products. They also recommended internal free movement, but with restrictions on large gatherings and assemblies, overnight curfew, lockdown of flights, and compulsory use of face mask of covering in the public. Sources familiar with the matter told Premium Times that the forum had, during the virtual meeting with Mr. Osinbajo, called for the decentralization of the activities of the COVID-19 response from federal to local government to curtail further spread. After a month under lockdown, many Nigerians have advised against extending total restriction to minimize suffering. It is not clear if Mr. Buhari would accept the governor's recommendations if passed to him. Willie Bassi, who speaks for the secretary to the SGF, said he was not aware of the letter. As at 11:30 p.m. on Friday, the Nigerian Center for Disease Control announced that 28 states in Nigeria have confirmed cases of coronavirus, totaling to 1,095 index cases with 208 discharged persons and 32 deaths. Now let's take the news in full. Let's analyze the news. I believe everyone knows that Nigeria is under the angst of the coronavirus pandemic right now, and everyone has been clamoring. The President of Nigeria, the person of President Muhammadu Buhari, has imposed a total lockdown on Lagos State, Ogun State, and the Federal Capital Territory, Abuja. He imposed this lockdown since the inception of the month of April, whereby there has been no movement in these three places, that is 2 states and the Federal Capital Territory, Abuja. The President of Nigeria also placed everybody under restriction of movement. You've got to stay at home. Nobody is moving. And since this period, people have been, clamoring for the fact that they want to go out. There is no food. they want to work, they need to make money to eat, they need to do this, they need to do that, and well, I believe their clamoring has got to the governors of their various states. Meanwhile, at the same time, governors of different states have imposed lockdown on their states. Some they've imposed curfew. States like Osun State, states like Ekiti State, Ondo State. The Oyo State government has imposed curfew on the state, and also the Governors Forum in Nigeria wants to be involved in the presidential decision making. So therefore, they made a proposition to the federal government that they should be involved in the next decision. Well, the president of Nigeria is said to be addressing the country today, 26th of April, year 2020, so as to decide the fate of Nigerians, whether the lockdown will continue or it will relax the lockdown. Although there are tendencies that the lockdown might continue. On April 22, there was this news that the Governors Forum in Nigeria implored the federal government to, add 2 more weeks to the lockdown. Well, now the state governors, they've come together now in a memo that the federal government of Nigeria, the president of Nigeria should make the lockdown partial. You should relax the lockdown a bit. There should be no interstate movement, but there should be intrastate movement. That is, you cannot move from one state to another, but you should be able to move within a state. Well, I believe that is quite good enough, as people have been clamoring that, well, federal government have not been providing aid and relief for them, and they have to work for themselves to make money, to make ends meet. A whole lot of people are breadwinners of the family. They have to work and make money for their family so as to, make them feed themselves. Now the state governors have, put this to the federal government, and I believe the federal government would definitely work on that. They sent this memo to the secretary to the federal government in the person of Boss Mustafa. The secretary to the government of the federation, Boss Mustafa. Well, it is in a letter signed by the Ekiti State governor and the chairman of the Governors Forum, Mr. Kayode Fayemi. Mr. Kayode Fayemi said, and I quote, "Recall at that meeting, it was agreed that the Nigerian Governors Forum articulates the issue that it would want to be included in the next presidential pronouncement on COVID-19 so as to have a uniform and coordinated policy on COVID-19 at both the national and subnational levels." Well, this in a way, they want to have a uniformed voice. They want to have a single voice to, control all of them. The likes of Anambra State now has, relaxed the lockdown. They've ordered gatherings. You guys could continue with your gatherings. But once the federal government make this a nationwide something, then it will be quite easy to assess and ascertain that this and this is, well, the spread of coronavirus is on the increase in the northern part of Nigeria now, in Kano, in Borno State. Even in Lagos now, it's on the increase. Lagos is going to be said to be the center of this epidemic in Nigeria, as cases tend to increase day by day. Cases of COVID-19 tends to increase day in, day out in Lagos State, in Abuja. Well, as of yesterday, 25th of April, there was no case recorded in Abuja, but that of Lagos State was very, very high. That of Lagos State was around, it was very, very 30 plus in Lagos State, so it was very, very high. Well, they've implored everyone that you must make use of your nose mask. The Lagos State governor, the person of Babajide Sanwo-Olu, last week said, as from next week, there will be a restriction on the fact that no face mask, no movement. The Lagos State government have been working towards producing locally made face mask from fabrics. Well, that's an applaudable move by the governor of Lagos State. We know the governor of Lagos State have been working towards curbing the coronavirus, and this guy has been working so far so good. Well, let's just await the pronouncement by the president this evening, 26th April 2020. As we await this, let's all stay safe, wash your hand, keep to the precautions. We love you at GSTV TV. Thank you very much.